and welcome to Coffee with Marci. Moms and dads, if you're experiencing stress in your family home, ranging from everyday life stressors to those that may be considered traumatic, please know that you don't have to go it alone. Sabrina Coppola specializes in helping children and families and has nearly 2 decades of experience guiding and supporting families as they navigate their way through extremely stressful and traumatic transitions such as divorce and separation, issues centered on neglect and abuse, as well as helping to reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression and much more. She is the founder and clinical director of Social Butterfly Counseling. Social Butterfly acts as a sanctuary for families, a safe environment to help families get back to feeling their very best. In addition to her role with Social Butterfly Counseling, Sabrina takes great pride in also serving as a role model for other female entrepreneurs in and around the community. Thank you so much for joining, Sabrina.
Cheers.
Cheers. My new set, and you're my first guest. I'm so excited.
I'm honored. Congratulations
Thank
on
you
this new
so
set
much.
and this being a part of your journey and transformation.
Thank you. Thank you. And I absolutely love what you're doing and cannot wait to share with everyone. So I want to know, when did you realize that this is what you wanted to do, that you wanted to help people at risk?
That's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't think that there was one identifiable moment. I think it was a series of events that have kind of culminated to my journey into where I am today. But I do note that there was an amazing group of people that took a chance on me and gave me an opportunity right out of college. I graduated in 2004, give or take, and I started working at an agency right here in Bergen County called Care Plus New Jersey. And I had the privilege of working with a very vulnerable and high-risk population of children that were currently residing in foster care and whose parents were closely working with the Division of Child Protection and Permanency, or Child Protective Services here in New Jersey. And I was hooked in that I knew that I had a gift. There's like an art. You have that gift of being able to connect with people.
Yes, absolutely.
And then there's a science, and I needed to learn the science. I knew I needed to go back to school and learn that science, but I knew also that I was given a gift, and I started connecting with children.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
At risk.
Because I think it's pretty hard to connect with children and have them open up to you.
Yeah.
Right?
It is.
Especially if they're going through trauma or trust issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you know that you wanted to go into practice for yourself?
Again, a good question. I grew up in an amazing family, and I know that I don't take that for granted at all. And it was ingrained in me that I watched my father build business after business after business right in our basement.
Wow,
and I watched them grow to great
wonderful
success.
lesson. Yeah.
It is great. However, I also had the experience of knowing and growing both professionally and personally in the field as a mental health professional. So when did I know that I wanted to go into private practice? After the better part of 2 decades working in a nonprofit mental health setting, we expanded our family. Yeah. I became a mom.
Okay, yes.
And I wanted to create a flexible home life for my family, because if I have this privilege of seeing how stress can impact families, I wanted to do what I could for my family to reduce my own stress levels.
Right.
And I knew that one of the ways to do that at this stage in my life was to create my own sanctuary for myself and for the families that I have the privilege of serving.
Right. That's great, because it's hard to balance it all. It is. And, to figure that out, but you have. And you started Social Butterfly Counseling.
I did.
Well, and I love the name. How did you come up with the name?
It's been kind of brewing since I was always called a social butterfly growing up.
Oh, that's cute.
Although if anybody met my sister, they would say that she's the social butterfly. I had the name with me for as long as I can remember. And after my daughter was born, my firstborn was born in 2012, I created the LLC. I started brainstorming and trying to figure out what do I need to do if I want to execute this vision. I'm not ready for it just yet, but I want to kind of stick it in my back pocket and have it there for me. So in 2012 or 13, I started contemplating the stages of change. One of the first stages is contemplation, pre-contemplation. And I started planting those seeds for myself. I created the LLC and did some more research on what do I need to do to be a business owner. And I got all of the legal stuff out of the way and just kind of stuck it in my back pocket. And then I owned it. I owned the name Social Butterfly Counseling. And it took me about 3 years from the time that I created it to actually execute it.
And once you executed it, did you started in your basement? Is that right? That's great.
Just like my dad.
A lot of great things come out of the basement, right? That's great. And so now you have a space in Wyckoff.
I do. I do. My first space was in Midland Park, and I've been on Clinton Ave, right in Wyckoff, right by Boulder Run, for the last 3 years, and it's an absolute sanctuary. What I love about it is Social Butterfly Counseling has kind of grown in this space that is so home-like, to the point where like sometimes when children and families arrive, they take their shoes off at the door if it's raining outside because they feel like it's a home.
It's like a home when you walk in. I've been in there and it is. Yeah, absolutely. Was it an old home?
It was. I think it was built in the 1930s, and the current, my current landlords, who are incredible women, they renovated it themselves.
Yeah, it's really nice.
And they created a home.
Yeah, you have a great space. So comfortable. So let me ask, what are like the common themes you find in families?
Human. We're all human.
Yeah.
We're human, and the human condition allows us to experience life. And with life, it gets messy sometimes. And what I've learned both personally and professionally is that it's okay to not be okay. And it's easier said than done, but sometimes we need to ask for help. And the common theme is in 2018, here in Bergen County, all as well as throughout the world. But what I see here in Bergen County is that we're stressed, and that, you know, historically, families, if you look decades past, maybe there was a one-income household, and now more commonly there's two-income household. And what that means is that there's more stress on the family because there's less opportunity to be in the family home or outside of the home more often, and it's very difficult to kind of turn it off. Not that we're supposed to. We don't want to turn the switch off, but if we can find opportunities to talk about our stressors that, like you said, what are the common themes? We all have it, so let's talk about it.
Right. And talking with the children about it. Is that...
Depending on what the stress is. Absolutely. When we can find opportunities to communicate in age-appropriate and developmentally appropriate ways, then it's as cliche as it sounds, the key to success. If we can openly talk about our experiences and give children the opportunity to talk about their perception, not our perception as adults,
what we think that they're,
but listen to what they are experiencing, then they'll be more likely to experience those stressors in more healthy ways.
Absolutely. So one of the things children seem to have a lot of stress when things change in the household. And I think that we as parents don't understand the effect that can have on our children.
Yeah.
As something as, well, what we think is wonderful, like a sibling coming into the household, right?
Yeah.
And, or just moving, right? So what can you tell us, the parents, how can we help our children to get through those things?
It's a great question. And listen.
Yeah.
Listen and give natural and age-appropriate ways for the child to be able to express. So I find that sometimes when we're driving in the car, for instance, it's less intimidating. You're not like making this direct eye contact. You're driving the car and, Jane is in the back seat and she's going to be more likely to tell you how her day was versus you saying, you have to tell me what's going on. I know something's wrong.
Yeah.
Then children oftentimes become more guarded. Listening to what his or her perception of their stress is and never saying, oh, that's not such a big deal. Just get over it.
Yeah.
Truly like validating and acknowledging what a child does perceive to be a big deal, and then taking that a step further and asking him or her, how can you deal with that? How do you think you could deal with that? And if they maybe don't have the tools or the answers to those questions, maybe offering between 1 and 3 ideas, because less is more. So the 1 to 3, you're giving some choices, like you could take a deep breath. You can talk about it and giving tips or ideas on who they can talk to, whether it's somebody at school or somebody at home or other more self-driven activities like drawing or writing or listening to music.
So when should someone consider coming to someone like you?
In a perfect world, before the stressors kind of bubble over, I like to talk with families about soda bottles. If you shake a soda bottle, what happens? It explodes. And the beauty of therapy is that as a therapist, my hope is that I give a child, a family, the tool, the skills to take the top and twist it so that the fizz, the pressure can seep out little by little instead of the lid just like exploding off. So when should somebody consider if they're seeing red flags?
What are red flags?
Okay, good question.
Let me jump in on that.
There's so many. Sometimes stress can manifest physically. I hear a lot of families talk about headaches, belly aches, diarrhea, constipation, nausea, withdrawing, and saying things like, I don't want to go to school, or I don't want to go to, I hear in a lot of families that have experienced divorce or separation, there's oftentimes an alliance that can be formed. So maybe I don't want to go to daddy's house or I don't want to go to mommy's house. And when you start hearing themes like this over and over again, those are certainly red flags. On the flip side of that, so those are more of like the outwardly things, also anger, explosions. But for some children, it doesn't get expressed in an outward way. Sometimes it's all internalized. To me, that's actually more concerning, because if the anger and the explosions are being expressed, at least it's coming out. For the child that is internalizing it, unfortunately, what we hear more about are really negative feelings about themselves, poor self-esteem, poor self-image, poor body image, looking in the mirror and saying, I'm ugly, or I'm fat, or I'm not good enough. Self-harm behaviors, cutting, rubbing, picking, pulling. Are those red flags? So did I give too many?
Well, I think a lot of times, though, where we as parents struggle is that okay, yeah, my child's cutting. Oh, there's a problem, right? That's a big red flag.
Yeah.
It's the little red flags that we don't know how to identify, to listen to. And one of the things that you touched on, and I think we're all guilty of it, is when the child is saying their emotions, their feelings, and we're like, oh God, come on, get over it, be strong, or do this, do that. And we are minimizing when they're really trying to have their voice, which it's so hard for them to probably have their voice in the first place.
Yeah.
And what are we teaching them in the long term?
You
right?
just nailed it. You just hit the nail on the head. And we're always going.
Right.
going. We gotta get somewhere. We have extracurricular activities. We have school play. We have practice for the swim meet. Whatever it is that we're working toward, and our children are saying, "But I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go."
Right.
And our kids are always communicating to us. And so you asked before, what do you say to the mom, or what are the red flags? And I would say, just stop.
Yeah.
Just pause. Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Listen and stop and think before you speak.
Right.
What would you want somebody to say to you if you were trying to communicate that you were stressed?
Right.
And then try to express that empathy. Step into your child's shoes and say, I hear you.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're stressed about.
Right.
And instead of saying, don't worry about that, that's not that big of a deal, say, that must be really hard for you. How have you been handling that? Or if you had a friend that was going through this, what advice would you give to them? And
give them the power, the ability to help themselves, right? To come up with a solution, problem solve.
Yes,
absolutely. Right? For themselves. Because I think as adults we have issues with that. And like you're talking about, pausing. We could all learn to pause, right? And just opening that up for our children. And, you brought up divorce and separation and all of those things. Like, how is that really affecting our children?
Every family is different. There's no cookie cutter approach.
No.
I will say 100% of the time, if the parents or caregivers involved are having a difficult time communicating with one another, and there's constant conflict, that is going to be challenging for the children.
Right.
And it can be detrimental to the children in that a constant exposure to conflict can be toxic. For families that have the ability to try and communicate, to as often as possible put the adult stuff to the side, and try to focus on, well, what is in our children or child's best interest? What do we want our child's takeaway to be? What would be our child's, I already said best interest, but just stopping and reflecting that we're a mirror to our child.
Absolutely.
And our child, what they see in our reflection, they're more than likely to mimic. So if they see constant conflict and difficulty with resolving conflict, or difficulty with negotiating and compromising, then they are more likely to also experience difficulties with future relationships, most importantly with themselves, and then possibly later in life with other partners.
I think that's one of the other thing that's hard for us to do is say, how is this going to affect them when they get older? Like, if you're having conflict and the husband or soon-to-be ex-husband is treating you a certain way, or you're treating him a certain way, they are learning that that's how you can be treated, right?
100%.
And so I know we don't want that for them, right? So again, it's that pausing, putting it to the side, right? That we could all really learn to do.
And again, we're human.
Right.
So when it happens, no family is perfect.
No.
There's no such thing.
No.
So when we experience conflict, I should also note that it's healthy to experience conflict if it's done in an effective and respectful way.
Right.
So, and after it happens, can we have a conversation about it?
Yeah.
And as a family, depending on the age of the child, so perhaps like middle school and beyond, you can have more of a mature conversation versus maybe an elementary or grammar school age child. You want to tailor our conversations based on the needs of the child, but if we can come back to the table and say, that was really stressful.
Yeah.
What's our takeaway, and what can we do differently next time we disagree?
Right.
And also hearing from the child or children, what was that like for you? Because what I hear in my office are the nightmares and the difficulty sleeping and the difficulties for some kids even wanting to eat, a loss of appetite, difficulty concentrating in school when there's conflict.
And we're taking them to the doctor and saying, why is their tummy hurting? Why are they not eating?
Yes.
When it could be an emotional.
Oftentimes it is.
Yeah, an emotional issue.
Yeah.
So is there any age that you can start? Is it too young? Is there any age that's too young to start your child? Obviously an infant's not going to come, but
You know what? You'd be surprised. And that's the beauty of private practice. Because I have to say that insurance companies will say that there is an age that perhaps is too young. And most, when you follow an evidence-based practice model, like things you've probably heard of people say buzzwords like cognitive behavioral therapy, sometimes people say CBT. There are age limits based on the research and the evidence that has been provided, but when a family is going through transitions like we were just talking about, a 3-year-old is going to pick up on it.
Yeah.
We as humans have an energy and we feed off of the energy.
Right.
And our children, as newborns, they feed off of our heartbeat. And if we're anxious,
isn't that true?
If
So
mama's
true.
anxious, baby's anxious. So to answer your question, at Social Butterfly Counseling, I've worked with children as young as 4.
Okay.
Are they sitting on a couch and telling me their, their family history? No. We're drawing, we're painting, we're using Play-Doh, and a lot of play therapy techniques.
Right.
But even more importantly, there's parent consultation. So if I can give a parent the tools that they need to more effectively communicate with their child, then I've done my job.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot of things about in the family and our children and all, and I feel that I should really bring up what is going on in Florida. Okay? So this traumatic thing has happened, the shootings, and it seems to be more and more frequent. I would have to believe that our children are feeling a lot of stress, anxiety, sadness over this. They are truly affected. Yeah. So what is something maybe we could do to help with that?
Oh, it's complicated.
Yeah.
From a mental health perspective, there's so many layers to this question, in that first and foremost, when my recommendation when a tragedy like this happens, as adults, we want to be exposed to the information because we want to know how and why this can happen, and it's the word that you used is traumatic. There's no other word to describe it. It's horrific. It is traumatic. Turn the television off if your children are home. First and foremost, the TV should be off. Our children should not be exposed because there is you can be vicariously traumatized through the images that you see on the television.
That makes sense.
And people can experience flashbacks and symptoms of PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder by being exposed to things indirectly.
Yeah.
Further to the question that you asked, what can we do? I can't imagine what the families who have experienced the loss are
No,
experiencing
I
right
cannot.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And even further, I can't imagine how this brings back the trauma and possible symptoms of the PTSD from families that have recently experienced trauma very similar to this,
Right.
like at Sandy Hook and
Yes.
in Las Vegas
Yes.
and in Orlando and beyond. This is an
Mm-hmm.
absolute epidemic, and
Mm-hmm.
it's we're certainly not going to get into a discussion about gun control and the
No.
government,
Yeah.
but that's a layer that is also a part of this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And
I guess what I would take from what you're saying is let's not expose our children to it.
Let's not expose our children to the news coverage, but let's engage in a conversation about how and the possible reasons why these tragedies are occurring more and more often. And there is absolutely a mental health component.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't just wake up one day and say that they're going to embark on a horrific event like this,
Mm-hmm.
where people are killed, people are injured, and people are killed.
Mm-hmm.
There are always red flags.
Yes.
100% of the time. When somebody is at risk of hurting themselves or somebody else, 100% of the times there are red flags. We just don't always see them.
Of course.
In 2018, I don't have my phone, which is kind of nice, but there's social media.
Mm-hmm.
And we're constantly connected. And I bring that up because more times than not, the folks that are engaging in these horrific events have posted or researched or communicated in some way very dark thoughts or ideas about how they may use a weapon that can produce mass destruction.
Well, it's such a difficult subject, and I want to thank you so much for sharing about that, because I know we're all feeling a lot of pain right now, and I just felt it was so important to bring that up and get your take on it and help us. So thank you for that. Okay. But now I want to talk about how you help women and entrepreneurs and serve as a role model in our community. We want to hear about that.
There's nothing formal that I'm doing. It's actually ironic that I'm having coffee with Marci, because I feel like a lot of my mentoring has happened over coffee.
Yeah.
Where I have just, dedicated time to meeting with other women who are motivated to start their business, to get their name out there, to get their brand out there, but not really sure how to connect. Kind of like what we were talking about when we first started today. There's an art and there's a science, and the ability to make a connection with people in the form of therapy is not so different than the art of being able to make a connection with people in general.
Right.
And as a therapist or as a business owner, or wearing both hats at times, just sharing some of those skills to, again, as cliche as it sounds, to just communicate, to make a connection. And you can spend a multi-million-dollar campaign on marketing, but if you are not making a personal connection, then people don't know who you are.
Right.
And that's the message that I try to give to other people, mostly women, that it's like a tribe. I have to say, a lot of the success that I've experienced is because I've made connections, strong connections with other women. And
they say find your tribe, right?
I've found my tribe, and it's growing, and I'm open to my tribe growing. My door is always open, and I try to encourage other women to step outside of their comfort zone. If you feel uncomfortable having a conversation, then you should have more of them.
Right.
And experience that sit with that discomfort and let's push through that, because I really truly believe it's one of the only ways to have a small business grow.
Yeah.
And, I'm not speaking about corporate America.
Right,
I'm
of
talking
course.
about a community-based
And I think there's a lot of
approach.
people in our community, women especially,
Yeah.
that they are trying to reinvent themselves.
Yes.
They have these incredible ideas, but the fear behind it, that they're not moving forward, right? Because it is so overwhelming.
Yes.
And like you're saying, making that connection and networking and allowing people to help you, because you've got to get out there and you have to learn, like you're saying, to make that connection, network, allow people to help you and create that tribe for yourself. And believe in yourself.
Yes.
Just believe in yourself, right? Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. Go ahead, just believe in yourself. Oh goodness. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's incredible what you're doing and how you're helping people, young and old. And ladies, please reach out, because if you are helping and you have an idea and you're not sure what to do, please reach out to Sabrina, because it sounds like you really could help and get them over that hurdle. And again, our children, right? They are number one to us, and let's let them know that and help them how we can. So I hope this has helped, and please reach out to Sabrina in all of these areas. And thank you so much for sharing with us. It's amazing. All right, guys, thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you real soon.